Welcome back for another episode of Generator Rex Unveiled. Today we're gonna journey back into this classic show to talk about the series' main antagonist and one of the worst beings to ever walk a fictional Earth. I am, of course, speaking of the Abyss's incarnate, Van Kleiss. If you haven't, check out my Generator Rex content to catch up to speed, and while you're at it, leave a like on this and those videos because every single like helps more than you know. Now, as the ruler of Abysses, aka Ground Zero for the Nanite event and leader of the pack, Van Kleiss's ultimate goal is to find the meta nanites, ascend to godhood, and create a safe haven for Evos, which is a farce, but shown in his origin, Van Kleiss is a genius-level nanotech expert, working on the original Nanite project, but while his fellow scientists wanted to cure all of mankind's illnesses, Van Kleiss sought to wield the forces of creation and become a deity. He is an incredibly manipulative, cruel, cunning, and vindictive man, seeing all as beneath him and purely a way to further his goals. Van Kleiss could be said to be constantly towing the line between delusion and faith. He will, without hesitation, throw away any and everyone in his pursuit of godhood, and what he feels he deserves, but at the same time still attracts countless people to his cause, all of which are disposable to him. Van Kleiss is the one that killed Rex and Cesar's parents, causing most of their life problems. Van Kleiss has tossed away his closest allies, including Breach, Beowulf, or Scalamander. He's used Cersei as purely a pawn in convincing Rex to join his side, and refer to any of the countless petrified statues in his garden for Van Kleiss as his example of how he treats those who show loyalty. Now, Van Kleiss, being one of perhaps the closest to the original Nanite event, became coincidentally one of, if not the strongest Evo in Generator Rex. Van Kleiss's ability could best be described as nanite-based control of nature. Through the use of nanites, he can manipulate the nanites in virtually anything around him at will and become nigh unkillable. He possesses super strength, agility, and a mechanical arm that can function as a weapon, projectile, or a way to create other Evos, more on that soon, but Van Kleiss's powers are more nuanced than that. To understand his true power, we have to take into account that his powers have a side effect, well, more like a condition. Due to his body's nanites being unstable, Van Kleiss needs a constant supply of other active nanites, and luckily in the land of Abysses with its rich nanite soil, his powers are much stronger on his native homeland. This relationship is symbiotic. Without Van Kleiss, Abysses collapses and dissolves into black nanite goo, and without Abysses, he is severely powered down and eventually might die. This shown when he's brought back to life, when Abysses also rebuilt itself, and Van Kleiss absorbed all of the dead nanites, which was a black goo, and takes on like a super-powered giant form. And to even comment more on Van Kleiss's character in this moment, he then used his resurrection and the weight of him stopping that plague of dead nanites to basically blackmail Rex into joining their team. The entire concept of Van Kleiss and Abysses is a nod, I feel, to Greek mythology of the giant Antaeus, and how as long as he was connected to the earth, he would never be defeated, but once separated, could be killed. Van Kleiss, however, gets around this location-based limit by either having Breach bring dirt from Abysses to wherever he is, wearing a dirt suit, or absorbing nanites from other Evos, which petrifies them and extends the limit of his journey outside of Abysses. To clarify, the latter two only let him survive outside of Abysses with a weaker version of his powers. Absorbing other Evos lets him use somewhat a half measure of his powers, and even in his weakened state, Van Kleiss is easily still superhuman. In terms of Van Kleiss's full power, well, he's a god. Inside the borders of Abysses, Van Kleiss uses the nanites to literally control nature. Though he normally uses this to control trees, he employs these by creating walls of trees so giant they disappear from sight, and can consume an entire city with trees. He creates giant talking tree golems and can form massive avatars out of the earth that can engulf the horizon. The control of the elements is not limited to just trees. He also displays the ability to make a localized rainstorm and move rocks to make a bridge. When Providence came to rescue Rex, we find out Van Kleiss wiped out a small army from the other side of Abysses, while also engaged with Rex, implying some kind of local omniscience or greater awareness within Abysses. Now, within Abysses, Van Kleiss is seemingly immortal, having his body broken and neck twisted at odd angles by Rex, and like a puppet seemingly shifting back into place. Rex cut him in half with the BFS, down to the microscopic level, even cutting Van Kleiss's nanites themselves, and causing some sort of massive explosion. And Van Kleiss not only lives, but reforms his body entirely from the roots of the ground. When Van Kleiss moved soil from Abyssus underneath a city and laid siege to it, he was very well once again immortal, beating Rex easily even out on his home turf. Rex even flew Van Kleiss several hundred feet into the air and shot him into the top of a skyscraper. Here, Rex blew Van Kleiss through every single floor of the building, and Van Kleiss simply got back up. The only way after all of this fighting that Van Kleiss lost was by Rex capsizing a wall in the tunnels and flooding the entire tunnels to wash away Van Kleiss's dirt so he could no longer, just be a dirt god. Remember, however, Van Kleiss is not immortal outside of his home turf of Abyssus. He has actually died in a sort of power reactor on one such outing when trying to capture Dr. Gabriel Rylander. Van Kleiss, in this instance, used a dirt suit that I can assume kept his body and nanites stable while outside of Abyssus. Here, he was severely weakened, never attacking or really being attacked, and the one time he was, it was damaged, and he punished his own man for that mistake. Then though, even depowered and outside of Abyssus, Van Kleiss has shown and proves an even match, if not stronger, than the leader of the Evo-infested bug jar No-Face, and No-Face had just previously ragdolled Rex. After being brought back to life and gigantifying, Van Kleiss was cured by Rex and had all of his nanite abilities stripped. Though, it is found that he got several workarounds along with his gauntlet because he stole a version of Rex's powers. He can no longer control nature, but can now exist outside of Abyssus indefinitely. While not omnipotent, he still proves capable of matching Rex in open combat and other Evos once again just as strong as No-Face. Van Kleiss's gauntlet, however, is now his main form of combat and use of his powers. I do feel it needs to be noted that Van Kleiss is actually an incredibly skilled combatant as he easily beat 3 Roman gladiators while unarmed, and his only assist was his gauntlet at the time, though I do think it was nanite charge, but either way, he's dodged gunfire and knocked Providence soldiers on their butts endless times throughout the series. His gauntlet can stretch and bend like rubber and still allows him superpower feats like flipping boulders or punching projectiles fired by Rex out of the air. And this fired from the slam cannon regularly shown dropping skyscraper-sized enemies. He can additionally launch needles from his fingertips, and these are strong enough to incapacitate grown men. And it even possesses some sort of conductive element, as even when sent back in time, he uses it to electrocute a gladiator and recharge his dwindling supply of nanites. The biggest ability that makes him the central antagonist to Rex is Evo making. At the end of season 1, Van Kleiss steals Rex's powers, giving him the ability to turn other creatures into Evos as opposed to Rex curing them. A quick, simple touch of his finger is enough, and his target doesn't need any nanites and he doesn't need any either. He could fully mutate uncontaminated people and they will be loyal and subservient, and it doesn't need to be an animal either. He and Rex in an episode, written in the sand, had a sort of cure versus infect competition, where it was ultimately a stalemate, but we can see he can even mutate things like bugs into sedan-sized monsters. Van Kleiss used this ability to start the legend of the maniacal or Cerberus, you can take it however you want, artist rendition, along with creating another incredibly powerful Evo named Garun Set, whom he abandoned, and we're gonna give Garun Set his own sad video one day, but moving on. Even without his connection to Abyssus, we see Van Kleiss is still just as dangerous and only limited by his unstable nanites. He's fast enough to face trained soldiers, including Rex, in battle, even faster to step back from Rex's sword slash at the last second, dodging it without seemingly needing much effort. After stealing the massive warship known as the Keep, and stealing Rex's powers, Van Kleiss even led a worldwide assault on Providence and personally took the Keep in a direct assault against Providence headquarters. To be able to launch an all-out assault on a global paramilitary organization, not simply in sequence, but all in once, land, sea, and air, shows Van Kleiss's greatest strengths outside of his powers, and that lays in his intellect and own mind. Even by scaling Van Kleiss based off the strongest heroes, Rex, Six, and other Evos, Van Kleiss still constantly shows to scale to them and higher, having strength feats that rival Rex's, speed and agility feats that rival Agent Six's, and even strategic feats beyond the level of planning and ability than White or Black Knight. It is in that same way I feel what made Van Kleiss truly dangerous and villainous was his personality. Brutally intellectual and self-driven, Van Kleiss charismatically attracts followers, masquerading as some sort of leader of the noble cause of uniting the Evos. This goes so far that as the ruler of Abyssus, Van Kleiss is a member of the United Nations and gained diplomatic immunity at one point. He has engaged in espionage, murder, kidnapping, blackmail, bribery, assault, battery, the list goes on and on. But Van Kleiss's selfish nature transcends more than just one lifetime or even the petty laws of the modern world. When he was sent 4,000 years into the past by Breach, he made his way home through time, constantly establishing himself well enough in each era to recreate his time machine. Van Kleiss was brilliant enough that even with a dwindling nanite supply, he likely rose to the heights of every society he landed in and commanded enough respect to be able to build a time machine. The only issue, he never made a proper time machine. It was actually more of a hibernation chamber. His machine didn't magically teleport him. It simply allowed for the isolation of his body from the forces of time and space. Thus, during every jump to the future, he waited and was aware of every single second, every minute, every hour, every year. This wait, coupled with being hunted down by a mysterious force throughout the millennia that tried to kill him, made him even more insane. Because, I say even more insane because it didn't drive him crazy, he was already insane. Van Kleiss was just acting mad in order to further his own goals and get back as close as possible to the nanite project, which after playing the fool, he manages to finally set the experiment to his favor and is set to inherit the power of the meta-nanites. Had Van Kleiss gained their power, not only would he have regained his prior powers on the level of Abyssus incarnate, he would have been able to subject his will on every single nanite or nanite-laden thing on the planet, and eventually control of all of reality and time and space. He would have control of technology, elemental control, gravity, space-time, and matter, antimatter, and energy. Though, Rex was destined to become the controller of the nanites as it was literally made for him, but thanks to Breach, Van Kleiss escapes with his nanites intact and likely still has his powers post-cure event. Meaning, Van Kleiss could very well come back and wage war against Rex one day. Speaking honestly, even without the Master Nanites, had Van Kleiss ever evolved to influence nanites outside of Abyssus, he would have very well been once again the strongest Evo, because on his turf, no one was ever a match for Van Kleiss. His strategic and psychological genius is what allowed him to find advantage no matter where he was. Van Kleiss is a man that simply cannot be left alone, or he will without a doubt crawl through the ruins and place himself once again close to godhood. And with a mind that has survived his atoms being scattered and reformed, and a mind that has weathered the test of 4,000 years, his brutal intellect will only further allow him to manipulate history and forever leave his mark on it throughout nearly half of recorded human history. Wait, he did do that. Van Kleiss, despite this at-length discussion, is a man with limitless potential for danger. He is by far next to Rex or Breach the strongest character in Generator Rex, but I could discuss him for days. I did another video on if Generator Rex villains were truly evil, so check that out, and once again guys, thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't, like the video, and stay sane and stay safe.